Well, time for another coffee with Kilroy, or what I sometimes call, many times call, let's face it, most of the time call, beverage and a book. My beverage? Well, I think we know what that is. And the book? Well, you've seen this book before. It's time for more Tales of War on today, August 26th. So let's see what we have inside the book, Tales of War on August 26th. Going a little bit closer here so we can actually see what is inside the book. So you can read along as well because I might miss something. So August 26th is the Battle of Crécy. 1346. Do I need to go a little bit closer? Yes, let's do that. Probably gonna be messing up all my counters for the big reveal. You'll bear with me though. 1346. If you drive north from Paris to Calais, just beyond Abbeville, you pass a small. Let's go like this. You pass a small town of Crecy. There on this day, over 6 centuries ago, the age of knightly chivalry received a wound from which eventually it would die. Here on this showery Saturday afternoon, England's King Edward III took on the might of France during the 100 Years' War with a force of some 11,000 men, including 7,000 longbowmen. The French army was normally under the command of King Philip VI, but in fact was composed of too many undisciplined knights who thought of themselves as allies rather than subjects, and were determined to win glory and ransom from the noble English prisoners. The number of French forces is reckoned to be somewhere between 35,000 and 60,000, but by any estimate was far larger than the English. Among the French were 8,000 Genoese crossbowmen. The difference in bows and bowmen was critical to this battle. The crossbow had first been used in Europe in the 10th century. It fired a heavy armor-piercing bolt, but the rate of fire was no more than 2 per minute. The longbow, first developed in Wales, fired a metal-tipped armor-piercing arrow 3 feet long that required a strong bowman, as the longbows of the time required a 100-pound force to draw. But the English longbowman could fire 5 arrows a minute or more. The French sent their crossbowmen to open the attack, but before the Genoese came within effective range of the English, archers responded with murderous shower of arrows, overwhelming their enemy in a matter of minutes and sending them into full retreat. Seeing the slaughter, the French mounted knights rode down their own bowmen in their haste to attack the English, but once again a deadly shower of arrows brought down men and horses in thousands. Once the knights had been unhorsed, the English men at arms quickly finished them off with swords and maces. It has been estimated that all English bowmen fired 500,000 arrows at the French. The battle has a pathetic moment of honor. Blind King John of Bohemia asked his captains, "Gentlemen, as I am blind, I request you lead me so far into the engagement that I may strike one stroke with my sword." He then charged into battle with the French knight, guiding him on each side, and was almost immediately slaughtered. His crest of 3 ostrich feathers with motto Ichten was taken by Edward's son, the Black Prince, and is still used today by English Prince of Wales. But each new charge was met by another lethal flight of arrows, and the cavalry could not attack the longbowmen, whose positions were protected by rows of sharpened stakes. Eventually, darkness brought the grisly slaughter to a close. The following day, the English counted the casualties. Fewer than 100 English had lost their lives, but 15,000 French and Genoese soldiers lay dead on the field, and further 1,500 French knights had been captured or killed. With the introduction of the longbow, a new type of warfare had been invented. Never again was the charge of knights in armor to determine the course of victory. The Battle of Crécy did not, however, have much effect on the 100 Years' War, which continued spasmodically for another 107 years. This is actually one of the earlier battles of the 100 Years' War. So that's August 26th, today, Tales of War, Battle of Crécy, or Crecy. I know I mispronounce all the time, but what do I have here? I have Men of Iron, which is the first in the installment of the Men of Iron series, which I've covered a few of the games or talked about it a little bit in some of my other videos. But this has this very battle in here. It actually has, let's see, it's got 6 battles in here, including that one is in this installment. So this battle is, as you heard from the description, is kind of a bloodbath for the English, and to me, it potentially falls into that category of why do we simulate it? Well, you know, this is a very important battle, famous battle. You know, you got the introduction of the longbow. You've got defeating a cavalry charge. You know, so it is one of the earliest battles, if not the first battle of the 100 Years' War. You know, so an important battle, but as far as for simulation purposes, not very even-sided at all. I've got here's another look at the battle from Battles by Map. I've covered that book too, but here's another look at the battles. You can see here the French having to go upslope to a higher position with bowmen. So you're already starting at a disadvantage there. To add to that, the British dug these potholes around the edge of the hill or the incline to try to slow down the mounted knights as well. So this is how the game is set up for Men of Iron. Looking at some of the rules here, you know, to further simulate it or to try to recreate the battle. You talk about the potholes. There's rain, so there's mud. That's going to slow down the crossbowmen, which were less effective in the mud. And so there's not only is there a disadvantage between longbows and crossbowmen, but in this battle, at least by these rules, there's a negative effect on the firing of the crossbowmen, so it makes them even more ineffective. And you know, there's some accounts that said that they were completely useless. You know, playing this battle, you might find you might agree with that. There's some bombards in here. There is one here and one up there. Ooh, I gotta move the whole thing there. There's one up at the top over there. Some kind of, you know, a little bit of an artillery piece of sorts, early type ones for this day and age. They have somewhat of effect on the battle. What else do we have in here? Oh, chivalry and aggression, that's one of the things that really affect this battle. So as you saw in there, or as you read in the book, you know, the knights, you know, were so anxious for honor that they rode down their own bowmen to get to the English. So that there's a rule in here. You can ignore it if you want to, but it does add a little bit more history or actual realism. You know, I always use words in quotes. That whenever they can charge, they will charge. There's a rule that shows what are the qualifications to do a charge or do a required charge in that instance. And when they meet that, they have to. So they're charging a lot. This is what starts on the board. You have the Genoese crossbowmen. You have the initial French mounted knights. They have more coming in here. Here is Philip, and this is John of Luxembourg. They're coming in very shortly, but they don't start out on the board. And then this is where Edward starts, the Prince of Wales, or the Black Knight, and then this whole line of longbowmen, dismounted knights, and pikes all along this ridge here. So, you know, looking at this, I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do differently. I mean, if I send these forward, they're going to be ineffectual in their raiding and potentially going to get mowed down by the longbowmen. You know, I could try to do some kind of flank, you know, either left or right of this. But I still have to deal with these potholes and the slope, and there's going to be longbowmen. Plus, you know, he can pivot with some forces that he has in reserve as well. So I'm going to put this to you all. What would you do? Feel free to put that in the comments. I might film a backup or a follow-up on this to show how I played it out, but this is the setup for the Battle of Crécy, which is here, and with the town and some woods, and then you have Waldecourt over here with a town and some woods. So it is framed in between woods, a river, and a slope, and some battlefield preparations with the potholes. So the English, have more than an upper hand on this. Plus, they have a ranged longbow, which is more effective at a longer range than anything that the French have. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by on this Tales of War. I do enjoy diving into this book and then also trying to relate it to an actual war game and trying to understand it a little bit better. There are other games that have recreated this battle. I generally like the Men of Iron series because I like the Great Battles of History series, and they both have Richard Berg as a designer. This is less complicated than the Great Battles of History, which is really focuses on ancient history, ancient battles. This is less complicated, easier to get into. It still has some of the same kind of mechanics, with how command and continuing of command and rolling for command, so you're just not, it's not a you go, they go type situation. You can kind of hold on to your command based on the ratings of the commanders. Shock is a big role in this. I mean, ranged is important, especially in this battle, but the main impetus of this is getting troops smashed together and having the shock combat. You also get some artillery involved later on in some of these battles of the Men of War, as that technology develops through history. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're enjoying your coffee or beverage of choice, as I am, but I'm mostly enjoying the company. Thanks all. Take care. Thanks for watching.